Hello. Oh wow, a genie. You have 3 wishes. I wish there was someone here selling a PlayStation 3. And I wish they were selling it for only $1. And I wish I had $1. Hey, can I buy that PS3? Sure, here you go. Thanks. I think I handled that extremely well. You could have wished for $1 million. But I only need 1 PS3. Hey there, how's it going? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. If there's one thing that's better than paying full price for the latest and greatest piece of tech, it's not doing that. Which is why I'm a big fan of garage sales. I stop at almost every garage sale I find. I don't usually buy stuff, I have enough dusty old nonsense in my dork den, but you never know what you'll find. Maybe you'll find a cool old computer or CRT monitor, or a fun lamp or some piece of memorabilia, or a PlayStation 3 for $1.
I'd buy that for $1.
Should I play that video clip like 800 times in this video? Would that be a good idea for retention?
I'd buy that for...
Mom and I were out for a drive last week, doing a day trip to some town somewhere, and then we spotted a garage sale. And me and Mom love us a good garage sale. Mom went straight for the nice antique stuff while I began rooting through a pile of random dusty old tech things. And that's where I found it. Sitting there directly on the grass was a PlayStation 3. I asked the lady how much she wanted for it, expecting her to say like $50, and then I was ready to offer 20, and then we meet in the middle. But she looked at it as if she didn't know what it was because she probably didn't, and she said $1. Oh, okay then.
For $1?
I'd never actually owned a PS3 before, but for $1, I was prepared to become a PlayStation gentleman. I also grabbed some cables, a power bar, extension cord, a few outlet splitters, and a couple DVDs to test it with, including School of Rock and The Wind in the Willows Season 2, which I was weirdly excited to watch on this PS3 for some reason. And all this stuff was $1 each. Yeah, that's right. This used outlet splitter cost as much as this PS3, including the controller. So yeah, I'd buy that for $1, and I did buy it for $1. I completely missed the PS3 back in the day, but before this I don't think I'd ever actually even used one. I was an Xbox 360 guy during that generation, and then I eventually crawled my way back to PC gaming after several shameful years as a filthy console peasant. I love the 360 though. I still have it and all my games, but the PS3 had a few exclusives that I never got to play. So that seemed like a fun little side quest. I'd try out a PS3, explore the game library that I missed, and revisit a few of my old favorites along the way. I was curious how stuff would feel on the PS3, like Elder Scrolls games and Grand Theft Auto and stuff. What would playing that on a PS3 feel like in 2026? I googled it on the way home and I learned that this was a PS3 Super Slim, otherwise known as everybody's least favorite PS3. It was Sony's late life budget model with cheaper plastic and this little sliding disc flap instead of the fancy slot loading drive. It was also kind of gross. The console and the controller were coated in a good bit of dusty grime goop with a sprinkling of cat hair stuck in it. I scrubbed everything with soapy water and rubbing alcohol until touching it no longer made me want to peel off my own skin. I fired it up and it worked. It booted right up and introduced me to its former owner, Austin. Austin enjoyed Tiger Woods, some fishing game, and Grand Theft Auto 5. He also saved several screenshots of the fishing game. Some of his big catches, I guess. Nothing else fun though. No secret family recipes or anything like that. Unfortunately, when I tested a DVD, the disk drive was dead. It would spin, stop, spin again, stop again, and then just give up. Which was disappointing because I'd already started adding physical PS3 games to my eBay cart on the drive home. Replacement drives are cheap and it's pretty easy to install, so I'll probably fix it eventually, but thankfully, a broken disk drive wasn't going to stop this little side quest. This is where I started investigating the PS3 modding scene, and I was delighted to discover that, yeah, you can absolutely fill a PS3 with forbidden computer magic. There are basically two options. Custom firmware gives you deep control over the system and stays active permanently, but it only works on older PS3 models. But there's another firmware called hybrid firmware, and that with a custom piece of software called PS3 Homebrew Enabler, PS3 Hen, that works on every model and still lets you install homebrew, load game backups, and do most of the fun stuff. You just have to reactivate it whenever the system restarts, which is fine. I can handle that. And if you're watching this in the future, you will also need to have a PS3 on specific firmware versions. As of the time of filming, even the latest version works, but in the future, they might patch that out or something. My older PS3 hadn't been updated in years probably, so I'm good. However, naturally, the PS3 Super Slim can't use full custom firmware. Actually, that's not quite true. There is a newer hardware mod that lets some Super Slims do the cool stuff. You install a Raspberry Pi Pico inside and solder it directly to the motherboard, which honestly sounded like a fun little project, and I was thinking maybe it would make a fun video, except it doesn't work on the 12GB version of the Super Slim. Guess which one I have? That's right, I didn't just get the worst PS3, I got the worst version of the worst PS3. Story of my life, I tell ya. But I'd already invested one entire dollar into this thing, so there was no turning back. And honestly, Hen looked like it would do everything that I really wanted. I could install homebrew, load games onto the internal storage, and run my backups as if they were just discs that I had. But don't, because Austin broke my PS3. Before I could really get started, I had to deal with the storage situation. This PS3 has 12GB of onboard flash memory, barely enough for the operating system and Austin's priceless phishing screenshots. You can run games from an external drive, but I wanted proper internal storage and fast storage. The PS3's USB ports are USB 2 speed. Luckily, the Super Slim makes adding your own storage drive pretty easy. That's something that PlayStation just let you do. Add a SATA drive to make it faster and snappier, and also be able to store more games and phishing game screenshots. I considered buying a new SSD, but that would violate the sacred spirit of the $1 PS3. So I dug out this old SATA games drive that I bought a couple of years ago and never bothered reviewing. It had been collecting dust, but today it finally had a purpose. Unfortunately, the 12GB model doesn't include the drive tray needed to hold the drive. I could buy one, but putting a $20 tray into a $1 PS3 would turn it into a $21 PS3, which would basically make this video pointless. Or I mean, even more pointless than it already is. And then I remembered that I have a 3D printer and am therefore obsessed with 3D printing. And sure enough, some lovely nerd had already designed the exact tray I needed. I printed it, screwed in the SSD, slid the whole thing into the PS3, and snapped everything shut. Storage problem solved for approximately $0 additional dollars. The $1 PS3 remained pure. I'm not going to give you a complete tutorial here because there's a bunch of steps and several opportunities to ruin your afternoon, and people much smarter than me have already made excellent guides. 2 YouTube videos that I highly recommend, and I'll link to them below. One for installing the hybrid firmware and PS3 Hen, and another for adding and running your own game backups. But I'll give you the quick sloppy TechDweeb version today. First, I installed something called hybrid firmware from a USB stick. It's basically the modified version of the official PS3 software that makes Hen possible. This involved formatting a USB drive as FAT32, downloading the proper files and putting them in the proper place on the drive, verifying that nothing was corrupted with a MD5 checker, plugging it in and booting the PS3 into safe mode, and performing the hybrid firmware installation. And everything appeared to work perfectly. But it had not worked perfectly. Apparently, you're supposed to install the hybrid firmware twice. I installed it once because I foolishly assumed that when something says installation complete, the installation might be complete. So I didn't realize that, and when I tried to install Hen, it failed, and then it failed again, and I spent several hours troubleshooting and reinstalling things and gradually grew to hate the PS3 and everything it stood for. But eventually, I discovered the step I had missed. I installed the firmware a second time, and suddenly everything worked. And I felt like a total dweeb. Don't do what I do. Don't follow my instructions. Follow the guide that's linked below. That guy knows how to count to 2. Next, following the guide properly this time, I opened the PS3's ancient web browser and performed a sequence of setting the homepage as a blank page, clearing the cookies, deleting the history, emptying the cache, and generally just destroying all evidence that the browser had ever been used. Then I ran the hen installer and finally it worked. It did the install and then there it was. Enable hen. Now whenever the PS3 starts, I just click that and it unlocks everything. The package manager, homebrew apps, my games of course, and all that other fun modded PS3 stuff. The main app that I installed and used mostly was Multiman. This lets me manage files, copy over my own game backups, and mount them so the PS3 treats them like a disk. If you need help figuring out how to add and launch your games, check out that second video that I have linked below. They go over the different file types. Basically, PS3 game folders go into the games folder, and PS3 ISO folders go into the PS3 ISO folder. And if you have encrypted ISOs, you'll need D key files, which you can get through this website. Just make sure that the files are the same name as the ISO and they'll work. The linked guide explains all that stuff except for the D key file thing. I had to learn that from somewhere else, so I wanted to make sure that you knew here. And with that, the boring computer stuff was over. It was finally time to load this bad boy up and play some games. Except I needed to copy the games over. There are 3 main ways to move games onto a PS3. USB, Wi-Fi, or Ethernet. None of them feel especially speedy on here in the far-off future compared to when the PS3 was relevant. Ethernet is the fastest, but my PS3 wasn't anywhere near my wired network. USB was the next best option, so that's how I started, but unfortunately, that meant copying every game onto the USB drive, carrying it over to the PS3, and then manually copying each game again, one by one, and waiting around between them to start the next one. It was faster, but it required a bunch of babysitting the process. Eventually, the lazy part of my brain discovered FTP. You could just connect to the PS3 using its IP address and queue up your files and transfer everything over Wi-Fi. It is horrendously slow. Mine managed around 2 megabytes a second, which means you could practically watch the individual electrons carrying your game across the room. If you're in a hurry, definitely use a different method, but I wasn't in a hurry. I didn't have to be there. I could just leave it going. So I'd queue up a bunch of my game backups before bed and let the PS3 work overnight and then test everything the next day and start another batch. It took about 3 or 4 days to move everything. In hindsight, carrying the PS3 over to where I could plug in an Ethernet cable would have saved a lot of time. The lazy part of me won out over the impatient part of me. It's a constant battle with me. Always, every day. The parts of me are always waging war against each other. I envy people who don't have armies of emotions in constant battle inside their brains. But eventually, I did it. I got all my games. I have more than 60 games installed, and I still have about 100 gigabytes free. The $1 PS3 was finally ready, and now I just had to figure out what was worth playing. And this is the part where I should be showing you a whole bunch of games. Believe it or not, this video was originally supposed to be mostly about the games. And then I spent 10 minutes talking about file transfers and phishing screenshots, so I'll probably make a dedicated PS3 games video at some point soon. I installed all the PS3 exclusives that I never got a chance to try, some random games that look neat, and a bunch of old favorites. Skyrim, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, Grand Theft Auto, all those huge games from this generation. I wanted to see how they felt on my new, old $1 PS3. And my first impression is that most of them hold up great. A lot of these are basically running at the equivalent of 720p low settings on PC, but there's something special about playing them on original hardware. Maybe it's because I played this same generation on the Xbox 360, but everything immediately felt familiar. A little jaggy, a little fuzzy, but familiar. Like putting on an old sweater that renders at 25 frames per second with no anti-aliasing. And yeah, some games really do chug. Assassin's Creed still looks great, but look at this frame rate. It is dropping to what feels like 15 frames a second, with screen tearing all over the place. When this game came out, it felt like a game from the future. I don't remember any performance problems whatsoever. Apparently past Dweeb had built-in frame generation. Or lower standards, that's probably more likely. But most of the games still do look really good, and most importantly, they're still fun. I even enjoyed playing them on the actual PS3 controller. That's something about this whole setup that caught me off guard. I really like the controller. I still prefer the Xbox 360, but the DualShock 3 is a champ. I'm definitely going to spend more time with the PS3 exclusives. And I'd love to make another video showing those and also revisiting my old favorites on original hardware. And if there's any PS3 specific stuff you'd like to see, just let me know. I might even finish a game or two on this thing. Although I'd be lying if I said that a 47th playthrough of Skyrim wasn't already whispering, "Hey, you're finally wasting your life again." I also want to repair that disk drive. I'll probably do that in the next few days actually. Modding was my way of getting the most out of a $1 PS3, but with physical media slowly being pushed aside by Sony, I like the idea of having a fully working system with a little shelf of PS3 games. I'm not about to collect the entire library, but I'll probably replace the drive and pick up a few cheap favorites. Also, then I can watch DVDs and Blu-rays too, if I ever feel the urge to experience a movie like I did in the good old days. Oh, and speaking of DVDs, I bought that Wind in the Willows box set at the garage sale, and I was genuinely bummed that I couldn't watch some of it. I used to watch that when I was a kid, and for some reason I just got weirdly attached to the idea of watching that on the PS3. And since the disc drive was dead, to finish off my little PS3 experiment, I installed a media player and added the show, the Wind in the Willows, to the hard drive. So let's finish off this adventure the way all great technology videos should end, with a little bit of lovely stop-motion woodland critters with very English accents doing their thing and hopefully not resulting in this video getting a copyright strike.
I'd buy that for a...
I'm TechDweeb, thanks for watching, bye-bye!
Oh, there you are! Oh, good morning, lovely morning.
Toad, where have you been?
Where have I been? I've been looking for you.
We've been here for ages, Toad.
Well, it's a good job I thought of looking here then, wasn't it?
Toad,
Yes, Badger?
be quiet.
Yes, Badger.